in the midst of their Italian, French. Of course, the French call the British the dogs, this one called this one frogs. But when an African comes as an enemy, they quickly forget the dogs and the frogs, and they can unite over a problem. Come to Africa. The opposite seems to happen. We don't seem to think that what happened in the 52 states in America, what happened in the states in Europe, what happened in the villages and the tribes of Asia, the villages and tribes of China, could become a possibility. You walk through social media, you actually have propagators. Every time you put something positive about the unity of Africa, I bet you 2/3 of the comments are those that are telling you that it can't happen. It will not happen. Some have legitimate reasons why that can't happen, but I fail to find what makes you think that it cannot happen in Africa when we already have the American flag with all those, when you have the European flags with all those different political, linguistic, country sort of individuality, but they could find a common convergence of function.
Africa must unite. This is the dream that we hear over and over again. With all due respect to these great gentlemen, these great minds of Africa, we all love them and we do respect them, and we love and we wish that Africa could unite and come together. But from a practicality standpoint, in the 21st century, given where we are in terms of geopolitics, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, or it will never happen. The question remains, what kind of unity are we talking about? Are we talking about coming together as one state, as the United States of Africa, as was proposed, as was dreamt by Kwame Nkrumah? Or are we talking about coming together to integrate and deal and do business more together, or having open borders? What are we talking about? As blocks, as SADC, as the African Union? What are we talking about? These organizations and these blocks are already in existence. So it simply means when we are still talking about the unity of Africa, we're talking about something more than just what we have at the moment. And the question is it really going to happen? I'm going to answer why I think this might never happen. The reason why I think the unity of Africa will not happen is because of two reasons. Because I think the people who don't want it to happen are more powerful and more stronger than those who want it to happen. Okay, so we need to look at who actually wants this dream to happen, the unity of Africa to happen, and who doesn't want that unity to happen. For the most part, let me start with those who don't want the unity of Africa to happen. Who doesn't want Africa to unite? Of course, if we look at the West, you look at the United States of America, France, for the most part, those are the main players within the African continent. Do they really want Africa to unite? The answer is absolutely not. The United States of America has no interest in Africa coming together. The United States of America as a hegemony, as a power, as a global power, as a global dominating force, they don't want any other country to become as powerful as them, or any other power to come remotely close to them. We have seen their actions all over the world, starting from the Soviet Union, them playing a role in making sure the Soviet Union falls apart. And the same today, they always talk about the containment policy of containing Russia, of containing China. They do whatever it takes, try to divide you. We all know that the United States of America wants to be the sole power in the globe, in the whole world. They will do whatever it takes to try and make sure they divide you, they destroy you, they neutralize you. And if any other bloc which unites and try to unite against the United States of America or the West, definitely they don't want that. They will threaten to do whatever it takes. Look at BRICS. Look at how BRICS countries are being persecuted. Look at Brazil, look at South Africa, look at Russia, look at China. All these countries are being attacked left, right, and center because they don't want any other country from the global south to unite and become powerful. So it's them who must be strong and the rest of the world must be weak. That is their policy. They will do whatever it takes in order to weaken you and divide you and destroy you, because they don't want any other force to become any powerful in the world. So the same is Africa. I'm sure the last thing they want is to have to deal with Africa, which is united, and become another gigantic force that they have to deal with. That is number one, in my opinion. So they will do whatever it takes in order. They will plan their agencies, they will bribe leaders, and they will do whatever it takes. They will carry out some coups here and there in order to make sure those leaders that are pushing the agenda of African unity, they just don't get a chance. They will all be overthrown and they will be destabilized. We can attest to this with all the former revolutionary leaders who were so strong with the unity of Africa. They are all gone. The Gaddafis, the Kwame Nkrumahs, and the Patrice Lumumbas. Of course, this is how they do it, because they don't want Africa to unite. They, irregardless of economic interest of us staying poor so that they can milk our resources and we remain a market to them and whatsoever, they would rather have a fragmented Africa that they can be able to control, that can be able to deal with, not have this gigantic Africa that can possibly become a power that can challenge the United States of America. They don't want that. Of course, they have economic interests and other interests. Let's talk about the French. Do you think the French wants Africa to unite? The answer is of course not. Of course not. The French still have so much influence within the former French colonial countries. They still have so much control and they're benefiting a lot. You know, how many countries in Africa still using the French currency? Okay, the franc. There's so many countries they're still within the colonial pact. They still have so much interest in Africa. They don't want Africa to unite. Definitely not. That is not within their interest, and they will do whatever in their power to make sure that does not happen, because they know once Africa comes together and starts speaking with one voice and setting one foreign policy to deal with all these countries, it means they lose their interest in Africa. So they don't want that to happen either. So that is why that it leads us to this last point. That is why they come to Africa and bribe leaders and do some coups here and there to make sure they have their puppets in place. And those puppets will do the bidding of the West and then advance the agenda of the West. And they will not push the agenda to unite Africa. In Africa today, the people who are advancing the agenda for uniting Africa are not heads of states. The heads of states in Africa are not pushing this thing. They are not the ones who are at the forefront of pushing this thing. That is why it is a far-fetched dream, because at the end of the day, those are the people who actually matters, who can make decisions and who can make strides to make sure we go towards uniting the continent. Look at the alliance within the Sahel, the alliance between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Who is pushing the agenda? Is those leaders, those military leaders who took over those countries. Those are the ones who are pushing the alliance and making the alliance work. It doesn't matter what the average person in Burkina Faso wants. Even if they want those states to unite, they will never unite if the leaders are not willing. That is the same problem that we have in the whole continent. Our leaders are not interested in this thing. The people who are pushing for this thing, who speak and preach about this thing, it's just you and me and the Mapongas and the Lumumbas. But the leaders and the heads of states are not pushing this thing. There's just a few far in between who are pushing for this thing, but the majority are not pushing for this thing because of corruption, because they are puppets, because they are bought, because they've been influenced by the West, so that they do not push for this agenda. And also, some of them are just corrupt and they are worried that what happens if we start uniting and coming together, they will lose their influence within their own countries and essentially be removed out of power. So basically what makes this dream very, very difficult to attain is exactly that. People who want this not to happen are so powerful, and in some instances are actually the people who actually matters. The West doesn't want Africa to unite, and African heads of states, most of them does not want this dream to happen.